When you share custody, the prevailing advice from family courts, therapists, and well-meaning friends is always the same. Put your differences aside and co-parent amicably. That advice works for reasonable people, but applying a cooperative framework to a highly narcissistic or high-conflict ex creates a massive vulnerability. They do not view shared access as a way to support the children. They weaponize that access to maintain a direct line of manipulation into your life. You have to make a difficult trade. To protect your own sanity, you must permanently abandon the societal ideal of a united family front. Trying to reason with someone who intentionally baits you leads to severe emotional exhaustion. You end up trapped in a cycle of constant vigilance, spending your energy anticipating the next manufactured crisis or defending yourself against baseless accusations. Staying amicable is an illusion. A high-conflict personality interprets your attempts at compromise and cooperation as a weakness they can actively exploit. To survive a high-conflict custody dynamic, you have to transition to a completely different operational blueprint: parallel parenting. This chart maps the stark difference in frameworks based on the other parent's toxicity. Top left is standard co-parenting, relying on mutual respect, flexibility, and collaborative decisions. But moving to the bottom right, high toxicity requires complete disengagement, eliminating shared routines and cutting off cyclical communication. Shifting to parallel parenting means trading the ease of collaboration for rigid structural fortification. The first structural rule is completely untangling your household from theirs. You are now operating two entirely independent environments. You establish separate rules, separate routines, and you execute zero collaborative decision-making on daily issues like bedtimes, homework schedules, or screen time. This creates a heavy trade-off. Your children will experience jarring inconsistencies bouncing between the two homes, and that reality often triggers immense guilt for the protective parent. Despite the inconsistency, providing just one emotionally stable, predictable anchor is far healthier for a child's development than subjecting them to two enmeshed, chaotic homes fighting over the same rules. Total peace and autonomy in your own home requires accepting a complete lack of control over what happens in theirs. The second rule requires establishing strict communication boundaries and building a relentless documentation habit. You must force all communication through a court-approved tracking app, like Our Family Wizard, or a dedicated isolated email address that you only check at specific times. Clinical literature strongly reinforces this structural limit. Restricting contact to written, traceable formats prevents your ex from using manufactured emergencies as an excuse to breach your peace. You do not engage in face-to-face discussions during custody drop-offs, and you do not answer unannounced phone calls. This firewall feeds directly into your legal defense. You have to log every missed visit, every rule violation, and every threatening text objectively and consistently. As family court experts and divorce lawyers advise, this documentation is critical. In hearings, a high-conflict ex will inevitably try to paint you as irrational. Your written logs serve as the objective counterweight. Logging every transgression is a heavy administrative burden that temporarily anchors you to the trauma of the relationship, but it is exactly how you build a bulletproof, fact-based shield for family court. The third rule is behavioral. You must refuse to take the bait when they intentionally attempt to provoke a reaction. Look at this flowchart to see the mental filter required every time a message comes in. Your first question is always, does this directly pertain to child logistics or legal requirements? If the answer is no, you exercise the discipline to completely ignore it. If the answer is yes, but the message is laced with insults or bait, you deploy the gray rock method. You strip away all emotion, ignore the provocations entirely, and reply only to the bare facts. To maintain this discipline, clinical psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula recommends the internal psychological framework known as Don't Go Deep. This text breaks down the DEEP acronym: do not defend, engage, explain, or personalize. Defending yourself against a narcissist's false accusations is a dangerous waste of energy because they are not communicating to understand you, they are communicating to control you. Refusing to defend yourself starves them of their emotional supply, but it requires you to sit with the deep discomfort of letting their lies go unanswered. Beyond the external rules of communication, we have to look at the intense internal toll this strategy takes on your biology. Constant vigilance locks your body into a state of chronic physiological arousal. You are living in a mobilized threat state, bracing for the next attack. This excerpt captures that clinical reality. Enduring this dynamic means feeling on edge, harboring chronic tension while you wait for their explosive rage or manipulation. You have to clear those cortisol spikes. Implementing daily somatic resets, like vagus nerve exercises, box breathing, or cold exposure, is necessary to break the biochemical trauma bond and downregulate your nervous system. When you do this, you protect your children. Providing a regulated, safe harbor in your home, without ever badmouthing the ex to them, is the most highly effective way to secure their attachment. Your biological regulation is not a luxury. It is the fundamental requirement for providing the psychological safety your children are missing in the other home. If your absolute priorities are establishing legal safety and breaking a cycle of emotional abuse, parallel parenting delivers that structure. However, this strategy will fail if you are still secretly hoping to eventually reason with your ex, win them over, or change their behavior. You cannot control their pathology. You can only control your perimeter. To start building your parallel structure today, download the structured workbook linked in the description at traumaunbonded.com. Choosing rigid boundaries over collaborative ease is hard, but holding that line is the ultimate act of protective parenting.